Okay. Hi all. Hi, my name is Rachel. If someone can just put into the chat that everyone's hearing me, seeing me, that would be good. I think we have people coming in pretty slowly here. Here we go. We're going to give it just a minute for everyone to load in there. Make sure all of our technology is working. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Increasing ROI on Your New Aesthetic Device. Today, we're going to talk about how to quickly start turning a profit on your device investments. My name is Rachel Mew. I'm the marketing director for MyAdvice. I'm just going to go through some housekeeping as I continue to moderate this afternoon. We're going to wait and answer all questions to your end. Feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A or chat sections. I'm going to keep a close eye on those, and we'll get to as many as we can. If we don't get to all of them, we will answer everything after the fact and reach out to you and call you as well. We'll be hearing from Mike Olson today, one of our senior practice growth consultants at MyAdvice. He's over 10 years of experience working for practices just like yours and helping them understand the marketing activities needed to grow. He'll also be joined by the team from R&R Aesthetics. Dr. Hodor, Liz, and Perry have been clients of MyAdvice since April. R&R is a new practice who's had to make considerable upfront investments in new devices and technology. So they understand the need to quickly start generating the word about their medical devices so they can start generating ROI as quickly as possible, right? That's what we're all here for. They'll be sharing their experience with MyAdvice and where they've seen quick wins and just how the pyramid has really worked for them. So now I will turn it over to Mike.
Hey, thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate it. So again, everyone, when you have questions, put them in the chat or put them in the little questions tab that should be to the right of your screen. You should have a little GoToWebinar window that you can write stuff in, and we'll get to all those at the end. But what we're going to start talking about, everyone, is just this idea that in cash-based medicine, which is what all of us are in, right, there's a high cost barrier to entry to get into this business, right? So like, the original thought of this webinar was, okay, lasers, things like that, really six-figure devices that you can buy, things like that, right? And how do you not stress out about your cost if you financed it or if you sunk a ton of money into it up front, and how do you get the best ROI out of those? And really, over the last couple of months when we've been talking about this, it's grown into even more of, okay, anyone who's in this industry has spent a lot of money to get into it, whether it's your space or just buying a bunch of product or whatever, right? And the truth is that the way that you do this and the way that you get your ROI is the same. It's the same process that you follow I'm going to show you guys, we call it our pyramid of success, but it's the same process you follow. You just need to be more careful and sometimes more aggressive depending on what type of product you've purchased, right? So really what it comes down to is I want you guys to know that because cash-based medicine has no insurance, right? We're not used to having as few lead sources as we do in this industry, right? If you're in aesthetics or if you're in wellness like IV therapy and those sort of things, you have fewer lead sources than you ever had as a insurance-based physician or nurse, right? And really when it comes down to it, there are only two truly scalable lead sources for new practices, old practices, big budget practices, low budget practices, and it comes down to word of mouth referrals, okay, and online search. And just so you guys know, I'm not including in this discussion things like radio and billboards and things like that, just because they tend to be dominated by really large groups, and it's hard for small private practices to really get in on that and see a strong ROI. So for the most part, again, word of mouth referrals and online search. And to be honest, I hope you all are working on your word of mouth referrals. Like, that's one thing that if you're going to do anything yourself, especially for large purchases and new devices or new services that you're adding, being able to work word of mouth referrals is incredibly valuable. And I hope you guys never ignore that. You guys are all nodding your head, okay? Yeah. Like, Dr. Hodor, tell me if I'm wrong, but like, do you know a bunch of like, aesthetic practitioners and people that don't offer the same services as you that refer people to you, right? Yeah. Friends and family, I'm sure, have referred people to you that have come to you. You've seen a lot of your growth, especially when you're really, really new, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like, I want to make sure, everyone knows that for MyAdvice, all we work on is the online search side of things, but I don't only want to talk about us and what we do. I want to make sure you guys know and have a few strategies to work on for your word of mouth referrals, okay? So the first thing that I want you to think about is, okay, you spent all this money on your practice, now you're open, whether it's a device or not, right? You need some people in the door fast. The quickest way to do that is network friends and family, and then people local to your location, okay? So if I work with a lot of private nurse injectors, right, who do Botox and filler and maybe microneedling and not much else. Like, those people should always network with hair girls, nail girls, estheticians, right, who are private and independent, who are just doing like peels and different types of facials, right? You should work with physicians who are private practice that don't have aesthetics. If you're into like weight loss as a service or IV therapy or body contouring, you should work with gyms and trainers. So if anyone needs any ideas about that, let me know, but you need to have a referral program figured out of what you offer people for referrals who do come from them, and make sure it's highly processed so that you don't get caught up trying to manage all these relationships you don't have time for. You need to make sure that it's easy to manage, but that you're working on that. Because at the end of the day, that is more of your boots on the ground guerrilla marketing that nobody can do for you, right? So I want to make sure everyone who's listening understands that you need to have both lead sources to really do well and to turn the corner and make something that actually special out of your practice. You need to have the word of mouth referrals, and then you need to add online search in addition to that to really make sure that you turn the corner. Perry, Liz, and Dr. Hodor, I've seen you guys nodding your head. You guys all agree with me on that, right?
100%.
Yeah. We're gonna let you guys take over here in a few minutes. But what I want to bring up next is really the idea of, okay, so you're working on your word of mouth referrals on your own, and no one can really help you with that. But how do you open up the internet and online search as a lead source in addition to that? And that's what MyAdvice exists for. That's why I have a job, why our company exists, is because for the most part, medical practitioners aren't very good at it. Sorry, guys. But it's the truth. And it's something that is easier to outsource and more dangerous to not outsource, if that makes sense, okay? So let me share my screen. Can everyone see my pyramid here? Doctor, can you see it and everything? Cool. So this is what we call our pyramid of success. And if you're a current client, I'm sure you've seen this. But what it comes down to is we've been in this business since 1998. And I've been in aesthetics for a long time, and cash-based medicine in general, right? Because I don't want to cheapen like wellness and things like that as well, is that this is the process that you follow to really have a sustainable growth-oriented online presence. And this has worked across thousands of practices, okay? Like, there's a reason we've created this and organized it in this way. And it's come from the brain trust of a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me, okay? So what it comes down to is you basically start at the bottom of the pyramid and you work your way up as aggressively as your growth goals and your budgets align, right? So the reason this works, I want to make sure I'm clear on this, is because it's proven to attract and retain what we call high lifetime value clients, okay? This little sort, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but it's in the top right, the little lifetime value thing up here. This is by far the most valuable type of client. Like, if you guys have ever messed around with Groupon or some of those really discount apps to get people in your door, you understand that they're not very high quality people. And in our industry, the only real value we get from clients is from repeat clients. Most of the time, a one-off client is not really worth your time. Like, maybe they are if they're a really high ticket item or something like that, but for the most part, they're a waste of your marketing dollars. And I want to bring this up because really in cash-based medicine, the money and the revenue that really helps sustain your business and get you, out of the hospital if that's your goal, or really grow and increase your income, is this idea of your regular clients over time who do all of their stuff and do multiple different procedures with you. This is just an example we created of a fully loaded med spa, and the idea that based on WebMD and ASAPs and some of these other places, that the average lifetime value of a client for a med spa, right, which is different than some of you, is $57,000. So one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make when they think about their marketing budget and their returns and their strategy is they think transactionally, not in the terms of lifetime value. So to give you guys an example of that, I have some clients who I've talked to who are like, well, Michael, I'm spending $1,000 a month on marketing, and this first month I only got one client from those efforts that paid me $500, right? And they think that they lost $500 that first month, really. But the truth is, if that's like a Botox client, that person's coming back 3 more times that year, right? So they got a $2,000 a month client for $1,000, not a $500 client. Does that make sense to everyone? I know you can't answer me, everyone, but that's what we're going for here. And I want to make sure you all frame your mind and you reference your marketing and your revenue by recurring revenue, not by transactions, okay? So that's the main part. And that's why we do this pyramid, because at the end of the day, if you have a trust fund, you can run out and run Google ads all day long and make a bunch of money and stuff. But the moment you stop spending there, those leads dry up. They're not a true asset to your business. High lifetime value clients come from organically choosing you from amongst the trees, if you will. Like they're in a forest of people, of you and your competitors, and the ones that pick you on purpose are the highest quality clients. And the way you increase your likelihood of getting those people is by building your digital assets and things that will last you over time. Things that you put the effort into it and then it stays with you for a long time, which is why ads are last and websites are first. So I want to go over that. First things first is a website. If you do anything online, you need to have a website. And that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one is it legitimizes you as a business in the actual consumer's eyes. I can tell you right now, if I see a business and I go to look up their website and they don't have a website or the website's really old and gross, like they're immediately out for me, okay? That's number one. So you need to have that to legitimize your business to consumers, but also to Google, okay? Google also does what's called indexing. So Google can actually know what is on your site and what services you offer. And if you don't have those services listed on a website, Google doesn't know to put you on searches of people who are searching for their services. Let's use the example of IV therapy, right? Everyone loves drips nowadays, right? It's a super hot topic, okay? If you have a website, but it doesn't say IV therapy, Google doesn't know, okay? You also need to understand that there are multiple search terms. A lot of people search IV therapy, but a lot of people search IV hydration, okay? And you need to have both on your site. It needs to make sense from a search perspective, meaning that you need to have the proper services that you offer in the proper place on your website. Let me show you guys a couple websites that we've built. This is the recent one that I really like. These are called our signature websites. This is a 3-location practice in Canada that I really like. A couple of things I want to point out. Number one, you notice how great their drop-down menus are. This is how people want to use websites now. They need the drop-down. You need to be able to navigate it easily and simply, okay? You need an about page. You need pricing for the most part, reviews. Gallery in our industry is really important, photo galleries. And notice a couple things. Notice how when I scroll down, that menu bar never leaves my line of sight. It is called a fixed header, a fixed menu bar. And these phone numbers never ever go away. So I never have to go looking for something if I need it. The menu bar is always there, okay? Super critical. Okay, this site has a lot of stock photos. I like how they turned out. But keep in mind too that it's important to make your site as customized and as unique as possible. Here's another practice randomly in Canada, but I just like this one, that they didn't use a single stock photo on their homepage. Like this is their lobby, right? That's their desk, the beautiful marble, right? This is the 2 practitioners, right? Like I love this little animation where it kind of zooms in on them. But as I scroll down, you won't see a single stock photo on their homepage. And it really makes their website, okay? Couple of other things to point out. Here's another site that I like. This is live chat. This is a bot that will answer people's questions. So if you're still working at the hospital or if you sleep ever, like you want your website to be generating leads for you. And a site that has live chat, like on the right here, generates an average of 30% more web leads than sites that don't, okay? And this, the one that we offer at least, is a bot. So it'll answer people's questions to the extent of, let me gather your name, email, phone number, what you're interested in, so that you can wake up to, hey, this person filled out your chat, they want to call about this service, right? It's incredibly valuable to have something that interacts with your clients on your site at all times. Another thing to point out is this little widget on the bottom left. So I pull this up. So this is an accessibility toolbar. So in the United States, there is something called the Americans with Disabilities Act, and healthcare websites, which include cash-based medicine, need to be accessible. Okay, this is one of the simple ways to do it, but if you don't have an accessible website, it can literally leave you open to like liability and litigation or fines from like your local state boards and things. But what this does is like, if I have a hard time seeing this, I can change the contrast of the site. See that? I can increase or decrease text size if I want. I can have a keyboard navigation where it'll actually read keys to me and I can say things. Like it's really important that everyone has this on their site, some version of it, an ADA or accessibility, right? So that you don't leave yourself open to potential issues. This is the new trying to get a doctor to run you over with their Lexus, okay? They try to do this instead of that, okay? So everyone needs to be aware of that. Dr. Hodor, you left. I like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So again, just some simple things. A couple other really random pieces about websites. If you're building a website, every service should have its own page. And the reason for that is because of what's called header tags, meaning the way that Google reads websites is if you have every service have its own page, Google recognizes it as your website is a more authoritative resource for information about that topic, okay? It's a lot more valuable to have Botox here than it is just in the text of a page. I hope people realize that. So it's important to structure and organize your website properly as well, in addition to just having the keywords anywhere on your site. So that's literally my 2 cents about websites. If you guys are interested in websites with us, we have 3 different tiers of websites. We have free websites, we have our signature sites, and we have our exclusive websites, which are like $35,000. So let me know if anyone has questions there, but everyone needs a site regardless of where they're at in their business. You have to have it, okay? Next thing is what we call local power. What this refers to is your local directory. So if you're aware of like Yelp and Yellow Pages and MapQuest and Yahoo Maps and Bing Maps, right? All of those places, your information exists or should exist. And there's about 130 that really, really matter to a medical practice, whether you're insurance or cash-based, honestly. And if your information isn't accurate and consistent on all those sites, Google does not trust your Google listing as much and will put you lower down on local searches for your services. So like if I'm on Google Maps and I search Botox, I live in Knoxville, right, Tennessee. If I search Botox in my area, I'll get a bunch of providers. And one of the main things that helps people go up higher on those lists is how accurate and consistent your information is on directory sites. So it's important to have a service, or you could try to do it yourself. I've never seen anyone do it successfully, but have a service that can keep all of your listings on hundreds of websites up to date at all times. So like Dr. Hodor, this is something that you pay for. That's really valuable and important.
Very valuable.
Another one is Google reviews. Okay, I hope I don't have to teach too many people about why Google reviews are important. Like if you use Google Maps or Apple Maps for that matter on your phone at all, and you ever went to go to try a new restaurant, I hope you guys all realize how important Google reviews are. I heard a stat. I don't know how accurate this is or how current it is, but a couple of years ago I heard a stat that the average Google review is worth intrinsically to a business about $500, a 5-star Google review. So like literally you can put Google reviews as an asset if you ever sell your business and like bill for that. Like they're super critical, and it's because of the way that they influence where you show up on a list. So like let's do a quick search actually. So I'm going to go to Google Maps here just to show you guys what I'm talking about. And we'll I like the Botox in Knoxville, Tennessee search, because that's where I'm at. Let's see who shows up on this list. So obviously we got some ads up here. Ideal Image is running an ad. This plastic surgery group is running an ad. And then we've got some of these guys. And you notice how like, even though this 138 and this 54 show up under this 229, right? Mostly because this one's further away. If you notice where the little dots are popping up, it's further away from downtown Knoxville than the other ones. But I would always click on this, okay? Reviews are an incredibly powerful way to push clicks, push your ranking on this list, as well as just, again, gain the general trust of your consumers. And just so you guys know, like, it's important to have a strategy for reviews, and we can automate most of that for you. Like if you've ever gone to a dentist and you leave and you get the email that's like, hey, leave us a review an hour after your appointment, right? That's called reputation management. We have a version of that you can automate. But the truth is, depending on where you're at in your business and how busy you are, it may make sense to try to do it manually. Like if you can't pay someone to automate it for you, just text people your link to Google. Just print out a QR code and stick it on your front desk. Like all of those things are free, and they can really help your ranking on Google as well as the likelihood that you'll earn those clicks, okay? If you're busy and you can't have a conversation with everyone, you can't sit down on a weekend and text all your clients, you need to automate it. and we can do that for you. So if you have any questions about that, let us know, but it's super, super important no matter however you do it or whoever you use for it, okay? The next thing on the list is social media. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm a bigger believer in social media being a strong retention tool in our industry than I am for it being a really strong sales tool. Like if you wanna generate leads using social media, you really need to run it like an influencer, and you need to be posting like multiple times a day and have stories and have all sorts of things and get up to thousands of followers, tens of thousands of followers. But the bare minimum for social media is that you need to have consistent content going out so that your current clients are reminded that you exist. Like your name and your photo needs to pop up on their feeds regularly so that they're like, oh yeah, I do need to go schedule my next appointment or whatever, right? Super critical to do that using social media. So regardless of how you guys do it or what tools you use, you need to get your social media in a place where it's consistent and accurate all the time. And again, if you have any questions about that, let me know. We can automate social media for people. It is a bit generic, but it's better than not doing anything at all. And if you really want that authentic, sincere social media and you want to do it in-house, I recommend using Canva because it has a scheduling tool. So you can sit down on like a Friday night or a Sunday night, schedule out 4 or 5 posts for the week, and then not touch it for a week, right? You can consolidate your time using a scheduler if you don't want to post it in the moment all the time, okay? So that's about social media. I know I'm running through these, guys. I hope people are thinking of their questions. The next thing that's most important in your online marketing strategy is doing true what we call search engine optimization. So this is where you get into the nitty gritty of like, how do you make it Google like your website for very specific services? Like, how do we make it so that Google thinks I'm a real authority in IV hydration versus some of my services I don't care about as much, okay? This is when you can do the proper keyword research. You can build backlinks. You can build blogs, write blogs. You can rewrite content. So like you can take your IV hydration page on your site, rewrite that content so it's 2,000 words long, have multiple videos and images, and really build it up so that Google loves your site for that service. If you guys have never been taught this, Google is becoming very, very sophisticated in the way that they try to determine who is an authority or what business in someone's area is an authority in that particular service. Really, like what they're trying to figure out is like, I search Botox in Knoxville, right? Who is the best, most authoritative, the person who's best at Botox in Knoxville that I can show them first? And the way you do that is by having more content, more places, and getting it very, very specific, okay? So we offer lots of services. We have 4 different tiers of SEO if people are interested in that, where we can do anything from a little bit of SEO to a ton of SEO. And really what it comes down to is how much time our SEO team spends on it every month and what individual line items we're doing with SEO. But at the end of the day, you just want to convince Google that you are better at whatever that service is that people are searching than the next person down the street, okay? And then lastly, you get into paid search. And the reason this comes last is because, kind of like I said at the beginning, paid search, which is like Google ads, Facebook ads, sponsored posts on Instagram, right? It's like renting an expensive downtown apartment, right? Like it's really nice, it's fun, it's in a cool area, but everything we've talked about before this is like buying good real estate in the suburbs, right? That's going to appreciate slowly over time, okay? These are the things that you can build equity in that last for years and years and years and set you up for long-term success. Whereas paid search is you're trying to do a quick hitter and you're trying to get some people in right now. And if you ever stop spending money on those ads, then those leads dry up. Another reason it comes last is because, again, the people who organically choose you versus the ones who were tricked into choosing you because of an ad tend to be higher quality, higher lifetime value clients. So that's why it comes last. It can be a very integral part to your strategy, and it can be very important, and it can be super profitable. Like, don't get me wrong, it can be incredibly profitable, but it's not as good of a long-term investment as everything else on this list. Okay? So really, when we take a step back and look at the pyramid here, and I'm going to blow it up, make it a little bigger for everyone, is everyone who's here has spent a ton of money on their practice. I had a casual conversation with a lady who works for a company called Cloud Med Spas, and she said, you know, to open up a fully loaded spa in the US right now costs about $1 million, right? This is like 3-room location, right? Like all the lasers you need, all the product you need, furniture, like all of it, right? And there's a huge barrier to entry. So wherever you're at on that scale, you've spent money on your business, and the only reason you're here is to get a strong ROI out of it. The way you're going to do that, just to sum everything up, is work on your word of mouth referrals, networking, doing local events, all of those things, okay? Super important. And then pair that with a strong digital strategy to drive organic new leads in through your website, your Google listing. You combine those, and that's how I've seen people explode up into 7-figure med spas and do really, really well, and, you know, buy nice houses and boats and all the great things we love, right? So really, that's my spiel. That's what it comes down to. Let me come stop my sharing here. And I want to open up the floor for Dr. Hodor, Liz, and Perry to kind of speak to how this has worked out for them in their practice, what the strategy from the pyramid means to them, and just overall let them just talk about whatever they want to talk about, honestly. You take it from here, Doctor.
All right, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Rachel. So just a little bit of brief background on our practice. So we started back in May of this year as a very small, and we still are a small home med spa. We're licensed in our state, in our county. And when we got started, you know, I started this, and then Liz and Perry came on board. When I was looking into what Michael was talking about and getting a website, you know, I went right to what I knew as a website development company, just based on name. I went to another company called GoDaddy, and I figured, you know, this is a popular company, they know what they're doing, and I just let them start helping me develop based on my ideas of what I wanted to do with this practice. And what I learned over the course of several thousands of dollars in developing a website is that they didn't really know what they were doing to help me. And that was my first mistake, is going with what I knew right away to be a popular site development company, and it didn't do me any good. I spent a lot of money and didn't get anywhere with them. And they weren't able to help me create what I wanted to create because they really weren't focused on the customer service portion of what I needed them for. And for me, in the world of aesthetics now, customer service is really key to driving your success. If you don't offer a consumer-centric type of practice, it's going to be very hard to be successful. But again, you need to have a site development service, a MyAdvice type of service, that's going to be there for you 24/7 to walk you through development from start to finish. And when I reached out to MyAdvice, I knew from the first moment I had my, you know, introductory 20-minute call that this was a company that was going to be able to help develop and lead me in the direction I wanted to be, which is directly up that pyramid. And after I got started with the introductory call and then to the development of the website, I knew right away that they were going to be able to handle what we needed for our company because they've done this thousands of times before, and they're trustworthy. They provide a service that you can't really get anywhere else as far as a customer service based product. So when you do go into finding and building a website company, they really will walk you through every step along the way and create what you want them to create based on your vision. Their expertise will come in and then help modify what you may or may not already know to create, you know, the site that you need, which Michael said, obviously a website makes you credible. A good website makes you really credible. And from there, they kind of help walk you through the steps of where to get. Now, the other thing about, you know, obviously for those of you who are just thinking about getting into it or who have already started this is, you know, your equipment. And equipment is very expensive, as we all know. And you can buy used equipment, you could buy new equipment, you could buy equipment from overseas and save some money. But again, at the end of the day, it's very important that when you think about the equipment that you're buying, think about buying equipment that is going to have longevity, that's going to have really good customer service in terms of, servicing if someone needs to service your equipment? Is someone going to be there for you when the machine breaks or you need a new piece or you need consumables, etc.? It's really important that you don't spare any expense on quality machines. Aesthetics businesses are a dime a dozen where we are. In every corner, 2 or 3 on a corner, there's no shortage of aesthetics practices. If you're the solo practice, in a 50-mile radius, well, that's great. You're going to have better outcomes. Better ability to capture a market because you're the only one around. But, we decided we were going to investigate what other practices in our area had in terms of equipment. And we're going to, spend more money on better quality products, or we're going to get products that other people don't have that are coming onto the market. We're going to buy that equipment, at pre-launch prices, which is really important. You look at the products that are coming out on the market and try and get in on purchasing machines before they're actually released. You'll save a lot of money in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $75,000 on a machine that's costing $150,000. When you buy it early before it's released, you're going to be able to save a lot of money there, which is very important from the perspective of small businesses like ours. We didn't want to have a lot of outstanding debt, but at the end of the day, starting a business, you're going to always have debt. So you have to just recognize that you'll be able to pay these machines off over time, and that's okay to carry a little bit of debt when you're going there. But again, invest in good quality equipment and recognize that you're going to be able to go from there. As far as the customer marketing perspective, I'm going to let Perry take over on that because he is incredibly talented when it comes to consumer strategy and consumer marketing, and he's been in this realm for a long time. So Perry, as far as getting involved in the consumer strategy part of it and how you reach out to your clients in marketing, you want to take over there for a little bit?
Sure, thanks, John. I can jump in. I want to defer to my wife and partner, Liz, though. Liz, do you have anything to say before I launch into my spiel and talk?
No, the only thing I was going to talk about, and I apologize, I have a client meeting to go to, but the one thing I would never, ever underestimate is the power of thanking your clients and follow up, thanking them again, making sure they know they're valued as a client and verbalizing that to them, listening to them, reiterating what they say. There's a lot of power in that. A lot of places don't do that, and they want you to follow up with them. And just that tip alone will help a lot. It's a simple thing, but making sure nobody falls through the cracks and they're reminded, because a lot of people buy packages and never return. So just make sure you stay on top of them and really listen and thank them often and regularly.
And Liz, if I could just piggyback on that real quick, Liz is great when it comes to, understanding what clients want. I think in the world of aesthetics practices, it's really important that you tailor the treatment to what the patient wants. Don't just sell them something that's not going to be valuable to what they want, because if you sell them a product, a treatment, and it doesn't give them what they want, they're not coming back, and they're not going to refer someone to you. I just spent $3,000 to have my neck lifted and my face lifted and my brow lifted. At the end of the day, I didn't get what I needed, but I saw that online and I said that could do what I wanted to do. But if you go to the physician's office and the physician or the esthetician or the nurse practitioner or whoever is treating them really knows that product isn't going to work for them, but saying, well, $3,000 in my pocket is great. Don't sell them a product that isn't going to work. Integrity is really important. And I think that's, very important to take when you're moving forward with a small business.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Dr. Hodor. One of the things we see about half of the time is we have a consultation and then the client comes in. So give enough time, especially when you're new, while you're getting used to how you meet with your new clients, to reiterate and say, we always sit them down and say, let's go over what your plan is, because often what they think they want and what they need is different. And again, what Dr. Hodor said about, listening to what they want. But then if you know that if they don't do their forehead and they only do their eyes, they're not going to achieve the goal they have, you need to let them know that. But often some clients think they need to do a lot of things, and really the one thing bothering them is a simpler fix than what they think, and being frank and honest with them is very, very important. All right, I'm going to let you take over, Perry.
I think that's a really good point, and I've been kind of trying to understand how we can articulate, our relationship with MyAdvice. And when Liz and I came into the practice, I have to be honest with you, my background is in hospitality, and I've started restaurants, and I've started multiple restaurant concepts. And so we talked a lot about, coming in cold about saying, okay, well, if we can plug in a restaurant model, a hospitality model into this medical practice, then can we change a little bit of the language around the things that we do? So I've always looked at starting a business as really, instead of it just being a straight pipeline business, as being an ecosystem. And so the thing that I really appreciated in the beginning, because I came in with the idea, okay, we need foundational principles here. We need a process. We need to add some layers. What I found more on the backside when I began to understand and use the MyAdvice process was the pyramid of success was exactly what I was trying to get to from an ecosystem standpoint. And it seems to be working now. When we first started, we sat down and said, okay, what does the practice stand for? How will, here are some principles: listen, assessing, measuring, guiding, things like that we'll do for every one of our customers. So once we had solidified our foundational principles, then we began to kind of fine tooth that on the website, from the website standpoint, to say that people will go back to our website, hopefully, and find those, those principles and understand on top of just the products that we're offering. So again, going back to this notion of an ecosystem, I have seen so many different changes in technology, and I'm still blown away by the things that we find out today, tomorrow, and what's happening for the future. And it used to be, all we really wanted to do is run our business. But running our business at one point was a lot easier because maybe you threw up a website and then there wasn't a whole lot of social media or things going on. And maybe I go back to AOL days. So Michael, that was before you were born. And when you had minimal reviews and really you just didn't have to worry about these things. But what I have learned in the process now is that the pyramid of success is, yes, your website itself needs to really be constructed in what's the word I want to say, a very, very thoughtful way, a very strategic way, because the website, even though it's at the lowest end of the totem pole, is really kind of, I would say, more so of a launch pad. So constructing it as a launch pad, and then as you're adding the layers, and I've been learning about local power, and we're not at the point now where we've invested in SEOs, but local power, adjusting the wording on the website, making sure that we absolutely are responding to every review that we can get, that we do get from Google, and luckily it's been good for us because it's been very positive. But let me just tell you, kind of like getting to where we are now. So this has taken, John, correct me if I'm wrong, probably about a little bit over 3 to 4 months now. But what we've been doing is by using, the notion of local power, which I just said, we make sure that all the information is as correct as it can be on the things we can control. Well, using the service called local power, it seems like we're kind of zipping up those cracks. I mean, all the information is consistent. Yeah. So if somebody were to go to Yelp or somebody were to go to see our Google business listing, they're going to get the same information. And sometimes that stuff just gets sprayed out there. So I've been really appreciative of that. But what we've actually seen is we're at the point where going from our hand-to-mouth marketing and doing our things like, I have it here, like our flyers that we give to people and making sure that people have a takeaway from the business. Now, we're actually seeing people respond to the reviews, and we're seeing people in our local market here in Bethesda, and even further than that, they're now finding us. And we've also tried to adapt because we've had John, for instance, like Softwave. We're finding that a lot of people are responding now and saying, oh my gosh, you guys have Softwave. Well, So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to be plugging a lot of SoftWave and putting a lot of information out about SoftWave because we're going to follow that lead. And because of that, they'll come in and they may talk about SoftWave, and then maybe they'll talk about Botox, and maybe they'll talk about Vivace. But we're gonna work that as best we can work it. But Michael, let me just tell you one thing that I've been appreciative of is in businesses and in our practices, we have clients and we're always moving forward, and we always say, look, what happened this day, and then we have the next day and the next day, and we're booked and this and that. Hopefully we're busy or we're not busy. But the thing that I've appreciated is being able to connect with Lindsay, who's our rep, and we've been setting, we obviously have a call schedule where she reviews some of the data, and being able to see the hard data about impressions and things like that, and talk to us about saying, well, you need to put more photographs up on your Google listing, things like that. That has been really, really good, because it stops us from constantly being in the loop of wanting to move forward and saying, okay, now we need to go back. And so I've appreciated the fact that we've been able to connect in person, and to even give a further plug, Lindsay and I actually discussed something about the notion of putting more of our social media hits out in the form of questions. And so I was like, wow, that was a big epiphany for me. And I asked her, I said, can you explain it to me? And she goes, well, we don't really talk about these things with MyAdvice, but I'm going to give you my opinion about it. And so we talked about, instead of it being, hey, let's talk about Vivace. Vivace is the best thing in the world. Maybe what we do is we make an adjustment to how we're saying it and saying, what's so good about Vivace, or what does Vivace do? And now, boom, you're answering a question on Google. So I'm like, wow, that was a small thing, but a big thing, because that's changed our entire strategy. So I'll leave it at that. But like I said, I think that when I synced up with the idea that, oh my gosh, I'm looking at a pyramid here, there are ways that we can work our way through the pyramid. It really matched my thinking, saying that it's a business, but it's also an ecosystem that we have to deal with. We can't just put a sign up on the side of the building and hope people are going to come. So I can leave it at that.
I love it, Perry. Thank you so much. We did have a question that I want to put out, probably to Dr. Perry. I don't know which one of you did this, but Kiera Ward from Regulux asks, how do you find out about machines before it hits the market?
So that's a great question. So what I generally do is what I have done in educating myself about the types of machines that I think clients are interested in is, I did a lot of research on the most popular treatments that people are going into other practices for. And we've narrowed it down in our area that the most popular treatments, as far as machines are concerned, are first and foremost microneedling. Any type of radio frequency microneedling device is going to be key to an aesthetics practice. Everyone wants to have microneedling. It's wonderful. I think with the radio frequency component to it, it's important to have. SoftWave is, the greatest thing since Ulthera, and it's really has taken the market by storm. It is an expensive machine, and it is costly for clients, but it is one of those quote once a year treatments that you can sell to somebody who wants it. Now, how do you find out what's new and what's coming down the pike? Just look at the best, do a search for the best brands on the market and what your other competitors are using, and then contact the manufacturers or the distributors. And I usually recommend going directly to the manufacturer. I'm not a proponent, and again, there's just not me. I don't like to go through third parties because I think you kind of get lost in the shuffle there. If you are looking to have a relationship with the company that makes the machine, go directly to them to buy the machine. You may pay a little bit more, but you're going to get more out of it at the end of the day, because you're going to get that service that you want, as opposed to having to go through a middleman. And that's just my opinion. But I think, finding the best machines out there, what your competitors are using, what they're not using, and then reach out to the companies to say, hey, is something coming down the pike that you're creating that I can get in on before it launches, and get the pre-purchase price, the pre-launch price. That's very important from my perspective.
I actually have a story about this if people don't mind hearing it. I used to be a laser rep. I worked for Cutera. I was in the Pacific Northwest. It was back in 2018. And I'm sure you guys all know about the M-Sculpt, right, from BTL and the M-Sculpt Neo. The M-Sculpt Neo right now costs, last I heard, was $350,000.
That's right.
Okay, is everyone okay? Everyone's heard that. When I was a rep in 2018, we sold the True Sculpt at Cutera, which was an RF body contouring for $150,000. BTL launched in the US. They're from Europe. They launched in the US with just the original M-Sculpt, right? Was $70,000. Like, you could buy an M-Sculpt for $70,000. People were excited about it then. I've told people this now, and they're like, "What? It's $300K!" Like, and it wasn't even pre-launch. It was just new to market, right? So like being first to market with something is valuable in the sense that you can negotiate it with the reps and be like, "Hey, no one else has this here. Like, how do I know it's going to go well? You need to give me a better price." Or like, "You guys just launched this device. It doesn't have a good following. You don't know what it's going to be like, and you can get the price drop." So even if it's early in the launch, pre-launch, they start marketing these things before they launch them. So what it comes down to is, I know nobody likes laser reps, right? At least a lot of people don't, because they're super aggressive. But if you have a good one and you have relationships with a few of the different reps in your area from different manufacturers, always be open to a conversation of, okay, what do you have? What's coming? What's the new tech? And vet it out for what's actually new and different and special, because there's a lot of stuff that gets recycled, right? That's no good. But if you can pay attention to the trends, like Dr. Hodor was talking about, and know what's coming down the pipe for these companies, you can start to get a feel for, here, to answer your question, how do you get it before it hits the market when you can get it for cheaper? Like, who would have loved an M-Sculpt for $70,000, 5 years ago, right? Like, everyone would love that. So
I will
that's
tell
my
you,
story.
it's very this may be different in other areas, but it's very difficult to find machines that you're going to be able to get leases on. Most companies nowadays are only selling you the machine. They're not offering you lease terms, rental terms, etc. They do offer, some of these companies will offer you buyback on new machines if something else is going to replace it down the road. They'll buy it back for you at a specific cost. And one thing is very important also to take note of when you're getting into buying machines is, remember, most of these machines have consumables. And we all say, well, we don't want to pay for consumables, meaning tips for your microneedling devices, pulses for your soft wave devices, grounding pads for your radio frequency devices, skin pen tips for your skin pen device. Everything has some consumable price, and it costs you a lot of money for that as well. Now there are some companies from out of the country that offer you these machines, and there's no cost for consumables. But again, when you buy something from out of the country and it's hard to get a customer service rep on the phone to say, I need more of this or I need more of that, it makes it challenging. You don't want to slow down your business by not having, an ample supply of consumables on hand. So again, spending a little bit more money on, better quality products and easier access to, a company that's going to be there for you when you need something is really important. So that's what I would say about those things.
Well, hey, Michael, from a marketing standpoint too, and John, the thing that I've always stressed is the idea is that, people are very interested in, salespeople are very interested in having you buy their products. They're having, buy this machine, it's just going to be great for your business. Instead of just saying, okay, I'll buy the machine, you need to have a commitment for a marketing plan. What can you help me with? How can we do this? How can we cross tag? How can we get your social media folks in to talk about this? How can you help us with our launch? I mean, a lot of people don't ask that question. And of course, as a salesperson is like, well, I just got the machine in there, I'm moving on. Like, no, there needs to be, I don't want to necessarily say quid pro quo, but at the same time, that they should be able to provide that for you too. So
Yeah,
make it a priority.
Yeah, reps should be at every one of your open house events. Like, you should have a launch event for everything. And you, as a Cutera rep, I would go to events like, they bought this thing, I would go there and I would just sit and sell procedures all night, as long as they would let me do it and as long as people were there. So make sure your reps are doing that. Keep in mind, like, when you're dealing with reps, I know this wasn't the original topic of this conversation, but this is where it's come. Every rep wants you to believe that if you buy it, they will come, right? Like, that's what they want you to think, and it's just not true. My rule of thumb is if you buy a big device, you should be prepared to spend 1% of the device's sticker price on your monthly marketing. So if you spend 500K on devices or $100,000, 1% of that to market your practice at least, should be like your minimum. The other rule of thumb that a lot of marketers will talk about is you should somewhere between the 5 and 15% of your gross revenue should go back into your marketing budget as well. That's you'll hear people say as high as 15, you'll see people see as low as 5, but at least 5% of your gross should go back into your marketing budget, if not more, to be more aggressive, especially when you're new because you don't have gross revenue, right? So just keep that in mind. But we don't have any other questions, and we're coming up on the top of the hour here, so I don't want to keep people too long. So I guess, Rachel, go ahead and close us out. Thank you for everyone for coming. Thank you, Doctor, and Perry and Liz. You guys are absolutely wonderful, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate everyone who came, okay?
And thank you for MyAdvice. You guys are unbelievable.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Liz and Perry, and Mike, of course, for just all the great insight. You'll be getting a recording of this. Anyone that that registered but was not able to attend will also be getting a recording, and I'm sure you'll be hearing. Mike will be reaching out to anyone that's not currently a client. If you are a current client, we've let your CSMs know that you are on this, just so that if you have any questions, they can chat with you about it, about broadening what you're doing with us, or just making sure you're using everything the way that it should be to the best of its ability. So thank you all so much, and we look forward to, and just have a happy holidays and happy New Year and all those good things. Thanks all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rachel.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Okay.